Hello, my name is Kayleen Vesna and I'm the creator of this website, Tampa Accommodations for the Deaf. I had initially thought about the idea for this website while I was in nursing school. Throughout nursing school, not a lot of information was given to us students when discussing those who were deaf or hard of hearing. One day, during clinical, I had walked into a patient's room with my nurse and she told me that the patient we'd be taking care of that day was actually deaf. She then continued to ask me about what type of accommodations I had been taught in school about making people who are deaf or hard of hearing feel more comfortable in hospitals, which led me to tell her that I did not know of any. This was an eye-opening experience for me as I was taught about everything that the hospital had available and was surprised that I had only been taught about this information very briefly in 1 to 2 of my classes, even though it was a very complex subject. This got me thinking about not only what it would be like to be a deaf or hard of hearing patient in a hospital, but what it would also be like to be a deaf or hard of hearing employee or student. In this video, I asked nurse case manager Mary Collins and elementary school teacher Julia Marin about what they would do in 2 different scenarios. I first asked Mary, if you were given a patient who was deaf or hard of hearing, how would you approach the situation and what accommodations would be available at your hospital for them? And this was her response.
I am a nurse case manager at a hospital. If I had a patient who was deaf or hard of hearing, I would first attempt to communicate by writing back and forth to determine what their preferences are for communication. Sometimes they prefer a family member to help, and other times we have brought in a sign language interpreter to discuss, very important clinical progressions of care and their treatments. Each person is a little different in their preferences, and I feel it's very, very important to provide options so they are able to fully participate in their plan of care.
I then asked Julia, if a student's parents were to get a hold of you during the summertime, letting you know that their child who would be in your class for the year is deaf, how would you approach the situation and what accommodations would be available at your school for them? And this was her response.
Hello there. I've been a teacher this will be my 3rd year, and I was presented with this scenario. If a student's parents were to approach you during the summertime, letting you know that their child who would be in your class for the year is deaf, how would you approach the situation and what accommodations would be available at your school for them? So there are many different ways to approach this situation. The ultimate goal is to make sure that the student's needs are being met. So if I already knew ahead of time, I would get that student's individual education plan, their IEP, and proceed with that and talk to the principal. So I would request to have a paraprofessional in my classroom to support this child's needs, whether it be one-on-one or in a small group, depending on the severity of this child's hearing. It would depend on how much support he would get. So if it was very severe, he would have one-on-one interaction with the paraprofessional to support him throughout the whole day. But if he could still hear a little bit, or he had other ways of communication like sign language, it would vary throughout the day, mostly just during his core subjects like math and ELA. So to make him feel part of our class, I would incorporate sign language, teaching it to the students, and having more visual support throughout the classroom, and just trying to make that student feel more at home and welcome. So incorporating auditory and visual support throughout the school, not only in just our classroom, but throughout the whole school, and learning how to effectively work with a sign language interpreter would be another option. Because I'm not proficient in sign language, I only know a few signs. I would obviously do some research, try and make this child feel more at home and comfortable in our classroom. And to support the students' needs, when other students were talking in the classroom, we'd come up with a system to show which student is talking so they could pay attention to who is talking. And there are different supports even through the computer. There are different extensions on Google that would help the student, that could turn all the audio into text, and he or she could read it depending on his reading ability. And really the paraprofessional with him that the school would provide would be his biggest support. I would make sure that his needs were met as well. make sure that I meet with him every day to see his progress in the class, and keep open and honest communication with his parents is key as well. Really, it's just making sure that this child is getting all the accommodations he would need from the school and from me, and making him feel part of the class, and have the students build a good relationship with him, and incorporating sign language in our class. Hopefully that student would know. It depends on, his grade level and where he or she is at. So I hope all those accommodations would make him feel better. Thank you for this scenario. Have a great day.
Overall, both the school and the hospital mentioned in the previous scenarios have proper accommodations to allow those who are deaf or hard of hearing to feel more comfortable, but they need to be more well known to the public. Posting about what accommodations they have available on their website, Instagram, YouTube channel, or any other platform of social media will be helpful when deciding which school or hospital is right for the person who is deaf or hard of hearing.